Biceps is a body part that a lot of people struggle with. And I'm not gonna lie, I also used to be one of those people. But I managed to break through the same way you are going to break through after you fix all of these biceps mistakes. One of the most criminal mistakes when it comes to the biceps is something that you might not really expect. The mistake I'm talking about is the whole idea of bicep training, which basically everyone gets wrong. Which sounds pretty weird, I know, but let me explain. If you are that one guy who always does random biceps exercises in a random rep range with random weight at the absolute end of your workout, then no wonder that your biceps looks terrible. Because there is no structure, no plan. And you best believe that this will result in no gains. Right there, you could already spot the first couple of crucial mistakes. You need to have the rep range and the weight already predetermined. It can't be just whatever you feel like that day. This will allow you to progressively overload in a super clean way. Remember, each tiny bit of progress in terms of adding more weight or doing more reps is directly making your biceps bigger. The reason why a lot of people treat the biceps as an afterthought is because they set up their biceps training in a super uninteresting and unimportant way. Like, who cares about the spider curl that you do as the last exercise in your workout? If your mindset is like, alright, whatever, let's just get it over with, then you can be absolutely sure that your biceps will remain small forever. So how do you fix this? Well, if you really want to grow your biceps, you gotta place some level of importance on it. It can no longer be an afterthought. You achieve this by doing two things. First of all, you don't train your biceps as the last exercise of your workout anymore. Move it towards the top. The sooner you train it, the more mental and physical power you can give to it. Secondly, you gotta step up your exercise selection. Stop doing some weird super exotic exercises that make you feel like you are just goofing around instead of working out. Your priority should be to completely switch to basic exercises that stood the test of time. Your number one pick should be the barbell curl. And if your wrists hurt doing that, then you can use the easy bar. And if you are working out with just dumbbells, then stick to the good old dumbbell curl. These are the exercises I would refer to as main bicep exercises. That's what you should really focus on, as these exercises will make your biceps training feel much more important. You should think about them the same way you think about the bench press or the overhead press. Biceps training should feel like a big occasion that you can fully focus on, not an afterthought. This should fix how you think about biceps training, which is already half of the success. Now for the other half, which focuses more on the actual biceps training mistakes that you need to eliminate. But before we do that, let me show you my training plans, which I created using 10 plus years of bodybuilding experience, with one simple goal in mind: to make it as simple and as effective as possible, so that anyone can grab it and easily follow it without feeling lost or overwhelmed. Because when I used to be a beginner, I encountered these same exact issues, and now I really want to make sure that no one has to go through the same struggles as I did. If you want to check it out, click the first link in the description and start simplifying today. Alright, let's continue eliminating all the biceps training mistakes. Definitely the biggest biceps training mistake is when you are not paying attention to what your elbows are doing. If your elbows start to really move forward while you curl, your front delts will start taking over the curl, and that will take away tension from the biceps. You need your elbows to be pinned to your sides at all times. Your job is to keep the elbow locked in this position. Some really small natural movement of the elbow will of course happen, but you really don't want to do something like this. Make sure that your elbows are pinned to the sides, and you will see some great gains as a result, because you will finally allow your biceps to actually lift all the weight. The next mistake is something that a lot of people are guilty of, and that is simply doing too much biceps volume and turning your whole biceps training session into some weird steroid user pump only workout. You really don't need to do like 5 biceps exercises in each workout. That's simply too much. You might think that more exercises equals more gains, which is technically true, but only to a certain point. When you do something crazy like 5 bicep exercises for 3 sets each, then roughly halfway through this gauntlet you will already be completely cooked, and anything after that point will not give you any extra benefits. I would say that the standard is 2 bicep exercises per workout. It could also be just 1 or a maximum of 3. This just depends on the type of training plan and schedule you are using. Now it's time for something super underrated, and that is trying your absolute best to mentally connect with your biceps. I know that this sounds kinda weird, but the difference it makes is out of this world. If you are training your biceps and you are just moving the weight mindlessly, you are literally robbing yourself of extra gains. I know that this is kind of difficult to quantify, because mind muscle connection is not really something tangible. That's why a lot of people are completely missing out on this. But if you get serious about really thinking and feeling what your biceps is doing, you will see the best gains of your life. You need to stop treating all the bicep exercises like you are just mindlessly dropping a boulder on the floor. There needs to be some thought behind it, feeling every stretch and every contraction. I can tell you personally that it took me a couple of years before I realized how important it is. So I don't blame you for this mistake, but this should be your wake-up call, because if you don't start doing this now, a couple of years later down the road you will think, oh, he was right. And it's better that you make this realization sooner rather than later. Then we have to talk about another crucial mistake, which without a question has to be ego lifting. You of course want the weight to be challenging, otherwise you are just playing around. But there is a clear difference between the weight being really challenging and the weight being so heavy that you have to bend like a madman to lift it up. You know, if you wanted to train your lower back, then you should have done hyperextensions and not a bicep curl. If you are prone to ego lifting and swinging, then I have a recommendation for you. Every time you do a bicep curl, put your back and butt up against the wall. This will prevent you from cheating. If your back and butt remains in contact with the wall at all times, you know that you did a good job. But if you load up way too much weight, you simply won't be able to lift it. So this trick is ideal for keeping track of your form and being honest with yourself. Well, now you eliminated cheating and swinging, but that's still not all. Tell me, when you are doing some kind of bicep curl, how much attention do you actually pay to the part of the lift where you lower the weight? Probably not much, right? But that is a big mistake, as so much of the muscle damage you can put on your biceps is done when you are lowering the weight back to the starting position. But if you just drop the weight like a stone, you are quite literally missing half of the gains on all the bicep exercises, and that is a pretty big deal. What you need to do is make sure that you are actively fighting against the gravity when you are lowering the weight back down. It will for sure be a lot more difficult, but the gains will be very well worth it. But we are still forgetting about one thing, and by we, I mean you. To get the most impressive looking biceps, you absolutely cannot forget about brachialis and brachioradialis. These two muscles are kind of forgotten, but the difference they make is absolutely insane. So if you have never heard about these muscles, you probably don't even know where they are. Brachialis is basically in the middle of the biceps, which means that once you increase the size of the brachialis, it's going to push your biceps out to the sides, making it bigger. Then we have the brachioradialis, which is found here on the forearm. Which then brings up a question, how is that going to help us achieve a bigger biceps when the muscle is on the forearm? And that is very simple. When you flex your biceps, you probably have a relatively big gap right here. But if you manage to grow the brachioradialis, it will kind of overflow into this gap, which will make your biceps look so much more impressive. To build both the brachialis and brachioradialis, you need to start doing either some kind of bicep curl with the overhand grip, or any variation of the hammer curl. And that's all I got for you today. Don't forget about the training plans in the description, and I will see you next time. If you found this video helpful, then you for sure need to check out this one too.